One late night in Paris, Driss is driving his employer Philippe through the city. Waiting in traffic gets boring, so Driss speeds up, weaving through other cars and ignoring all the traffic signs. The police start chasing him. Driss bets €100 that he can get away, but after driving under a bridge, the cops catch up by blocking them from both sides. Driss doesn't seem worried. This time he bets €200 that he can get a police escort. The cops make him get out of the car. Driss starts acting, pretending to be offended and telling them that Philippe can't move and that he was taking him to the hospital. The officers find proof when they see the wheelchair in the back. When they get to Philippe, they see him shaking, which is also part of the act. Since it looks like an emergency, the cops forgive Driss for speeding and offer to escort him to the hospital. To celebrate his win, Driss plays September by Earth, Wind & Fire. When they get to the hospital, he shares a cigarette with Philippe as soon as the cops leave. Driss promises to handle it and drives them away just before the hospital staff can find them. Their friendship started many months ago. Philippe and his assistant Magali are interviewing people to find a new caretaker. It's not going well because all the applicants have very boring or awkward answers. But they're surprised when Driss bursts in, ignoring his turn. He only wants them to sign some papers that say they won't hire him so he can get unemployment benefits. He's direct and a little rude, and he even flirts with Magali. But Philippe finds him funny and tells him to come back the next day for the signed papers. Driss goes back to his home in a poor neighborhood and tries to take a bath while his younger siblings bother him. He only gets it done thanks to his sister Mina, who is older and more responsible than the rest. While waiting for their mom, he looks out the window and sees his brother Adama getting out of a suspicious car. When the boy comes inside, he just says he was at school and leaves again with his bag. This makes Driss even more certain that Adama is up to something. That evening, his mom arrives. He gives her a Fabergé egg he stole and tells her he's been on vacation. She's not happy to see him. He disappeared for 6 months without calling, and now he's just shown up as if her home were a hotel. She's sick of his lies and has other children to care for, so she kicks him out and tells him not to come back. Driss spends the night smoking and eating snacks with his neighborhood friends. The next day, Driss goes back to Philippe's house for his papers. The housekeeper, Yvonne, greets him. She shows him around and tells him about Philippe's daily routine. She also shows him the room he would get, which has its own bathroom. Driss can't stop staring at the bathtub. Before he is taken to see Philippe. Philippe offers him the signed paper, but also a job. Driss accepts the 1-month trial. Philippe tells him he bets Driss won't last 2 weeks. After taking his things to his room, Driss is taught how to care for Philippe. He has to learn how to keep Philippe's legs moving, how to get him in his wheelchair, and how to help him shower and change his clothes. Things get awkward when Driss finds out he has to put on Philippe's stockings and even clean his bottom after he uses the bathroom. No matter how much he complains and says he won't do these tasks, he ends up accepting them as part of the job. Later that night, Driss is eating a snack on the roof when he is interrupted by Philippe's daughter Elisa and her boyfriend, Bastien. They are looking for a private place to kiss. Driss kicks them both out after refusing to share his beer. Driss quickly gets used to the daily routine with Philippe. At first, he makes some mistakes, but he learns from them. For example, he hands Philippe the phone instead of holding it to his ear, and he forgets the baby monitor while taking a bath. He also learns to put Philippe's mail into different folders. He opens most of the letters for Philippe, but there are some private ones he is not allowed to see. When he finds a flyer for female escorts, he decides to start a new file for them, instead of throwing them away, as Philippe told him to. It's not all work in his new life. Driss still makes sure to have a good time. He keeps trying to flirt with Magali, but it never works, and he sometimes calls escorts to join him in bed. One morning, Yvonne comes to his room to scold him for being late. She finds some dangerous weapons in his bag, but she doesn't say anything about them yet. Today, Driss's job is to drive Philippe, but he refuses to put him in the back of a van like cargo. Instead, he takes him in one of the fancy cars that is rarely used. At first, Philippe thinks this isn't a good idea and says they should be practical, but he soon gets excited about the faster, more fun ride, even though Yvonne still doesn't approve. When they try to leave the building, a neighbor is parked at the entrance, ignoring the no parking sign. Driss doesn't waste any time. He goes up to the guy, grabs the front of his shirt, and threatens him until he moves the car. Philippe is impressed by what Driss did, but Yvonne, once again, doesn't approve. Philippe plans to buy a piece of art that Driss thinks is not worth the money because it's just a red blotch on the canvas. Later, Philippe meets a relative who tells him everyone has worried about Driss because he can be violent. The relative also found out that Driss has a criminal record. But Philippe doesn't care. He likes Driss, because Driss doesn't feel sorry for him and doesn't mind joking around. After another failed attempt to flirt with Magali, Driss has dinner with Yvonne in the kitchen while listening to Philippe dictate a letter to Magali. Yvonne says it's a private talk. She turns off the baby monitor and explains what's happening. Philippe has been writing letters to a woman named Eleanor. These are the letters he didn't let Driss open, but he has never met Eleanor in person. Their relationship is only through letters. Speaking of love, Driss teases Yvonne about the way the gardener always looks at her. Then he goes to bed. He's trying to sleep when he hears strange sounds from the baby monitor. Philippe is having trouble breathing. Even though he tries, Driss can't ignore it. He goes to Philippe's room and gently helps him through the attack with calm words and a wet cloth for his face. Philippe eventually falls asleep, but wakes up moments later, saying he needs air. This time, Driss doesn't hesitate. He puts Philippe in the wheelchair, covers him with blankets, and takes him for a walk by the river. This is the first time Philippe has seen Paris at night in a long time. Now that he's more relaxed, he explains that medicine can only do so much, and that he sometimes feels phantom pain. When they see some girls walking by, Philippe also admits he can't pleasure a woman because of his condition, but he still feels some pleasure when his ears are massaged, because they are sensitive. When the phantom pain starts to return, Driss shares one of his joints with Philippe. Philippe is doubtful at first, but ends up loving it. Afterward, they go to a restaurant. They joke around while eating, and Philippe decides to tell Driss more about his life. He met his wife when they were students. Soon after they married, she had 5 miscarriages and was diagnosed with a deadly, incurable illness. That's when they adopted Elisa. Philippe has always loved competitions, extreme sports, and speed. Paragliding gave him that feeling. During a paragliding trip, bad weather caused him to crash and break his spine. But he still thinks his real disability isn't the wheelchair, but living without his wife. After they joke around some more, Philippe remembers the date. He realizes Driss has passed his 1-month trial, so he is now officially hired. But first, Driss has to bring back the Fabergé egg he stole. It was a gift from his wife, who gave him one every year.
He has exactly 25 of them, one for each year they were together.
The next day, Driss goes to talk to Mina as she leaves school.
She's a bit annoyed because he hasn't answered her texts except to ask her to find the egg.
She also tells him that some police have been calling their house. Afterward, he visits Adama. Adama admits he was caught with 30 grams of drugs on him. Driss wants to take him to lunch, but Adama refuses. Instead, he gets into the same suspicious car as before. Later, Driss is allowed to be in the room while Philippe dictates his letter for Eleanor to Magali. Driss thinks this overly flowery writing is very boring, and that Philippe should be more direct. He's also confused to hear this has been going on for 6 months, and they have never traded pictures. When he finds her phone number on one of the letters, he takes it as a sign and calls her. This forces Philippe to take the phone and finally talk to her instead of just writing. Their talk goes so well that Philippe is now on the phone with her all the time, even just before he and Driss go to the opera.
At the opera, Driss laughs and makes fun of the costumes.
The next day, Driss convinces Philippe to trade pictures with Eleanor. He chooses a picture of Philippe in his wheelchair. Later, while Driss is painting, Elisa bursts into his room to ask for cigarettes. She makes fun of him for trying to be artistic. Driss gets angry and kicks her out. He goes to see Philippe, who is asking Yvonne to change the picture to one of him from before he was a quadriplegic. Yvonne hides the picture inside the escort file just before Driss bursts in, complaining about Elisa and telling Philippe he needs to punish her. Yvonne agrees. Philippe agrees to talk to Elisa, but he is most surprised when Driss lets it slip that he has been painting. Days pass and the friendship between Philippe and Driss keeps growing. Driss takes him to play in the snow and brings him along when he goes for a run. Philippe buys Driss his first suit and scolds his daughter while Driss listens in through the baby monitor. When Driss finishes his first painting, he shows it to Magali. She slaps him when he tries to kiss her. Philippe, however, likes the painting and promises to try to sell it. The two of them have a great time together. They enjoy things like getting a faster car, sharing joints, and even hiring escorts together. When Philippe's birthday comes, he isn't very excited. Every year he pretends to be surprised by the party. He has to see all his relatives who only come to check if he's still alive. Philippe says it will be boring. While he and the guests enjoy some live classical music, Driss looks for Elisa. She is in her room crying after taking some of Yvonne's pills, which won't kill her as she had hoped. She is sad because Bastien broke up with her and called her a slut. So she asks Driss to talk to Bastien, which he agrees to do for a price.
Meanwhile, Philippe shows Driss's painting to his relative. He manages to convince the relative to buy it for 11,000 euros. Driss goes back to the dining room and talks with Yvonne. She tells him that Magali is in a relationship with someone named Fred, but things are not going well, which gives Driss hope. As the party ends, Philippe makes Driss listen to some of the most important classical songs, but Driss only makes jokes. After the band is done, Driss brings his iPod and plays Boogie Wonderland by Earth, Wind & Fire. Then he starts dancing right in the middle of the floor. He's an amazing dancer. He even gets the rest of the party to join him and dance, which Philippe enjoys watching. Later, while putting Philippe to bed, Driss opens Eleanor's latest letter. She sent her picture and she's very pretty. She tells him they should meet next week when she visits Paris. When the date arrives, Yvonne and Driss have Philippe try on dozens of outfits until they find the perfect one. Since Yvonne will take Philippe on the date, Driss uses his day off to visit Bastien. He threatens him until Bastien agrees to apologize to Elisa and to bring her croissants every day. He also tells Bastien to fix his hair. Afterward, he visits his mother at work, but only watches her from a distance. At the restaurant, Yvonne and Philippe wait for Eleanor, who is very late. After waiting for an hour, Philippe gives up. He calls Driss to pick him up, and then leaves the restaurant without seeing that Eleanor is arriving at the same time. That same night, Philippe takes Driss with him on his private plane and gives him the money he got for selling the painting, which makes Driss incredibly happy. They arrive in the countryside the next morning. Philippe decides to go paragliding and takes Driss with him. Driss doesn't want to do it at all, but after panicking at first, he ends up enjoying it. When they get home, Adama is waiting for Driss. Driss scolds him when he sees the scars on his face. Adama still won't tell Driss what's happening, so Driss makes him wait in his room while he calls Mina to tell her not to worry and goes to put Philippe to bed. Philippe, however, is not sleepy yet. After making Driss look at a painting with him, he asks about Driss's family. At first, Driss doesn't want to talk about it, but he eventually gives in. It turns out that Adama isn't technically his brother, and his parents aren't his real parents. They are his aunt and uncle. They brought him from Senegal when he was 8 because they couldn't have children. His real name is Bakary Bassari, but since other kids had that name, they called him Idris, which became Driss. One day, his aunt was miraculously able to have a child. After his uncle died, there were other men and more children. Just as Driss talked to him about Eliza, Philippe says that Adama needs discipline. So, he fires Driss, so Driss can be with his family. Philippe says Driss can't spend his whole life taking care of an old man. The next morning, after Bastien has brought his daily croissant while wearing a better hairstyle, Driss packs his bags and gets ready to leave. Magali comes to say goodbye. When Driss tries to flirt with her one last time, Magali introduces him to her partner, Fred, which is short for Frederic. It turns out Magali isn't interested in men, and Driss gives up right away. On his way out, he gives the baby monitor back to Yvonne. He teases her for lying to him about Magali just to trick him. In return, she gives him the escort file he had started. He's disappointed to find the picture he had chosen is hidden inside. Driss throws away the file, but he keeps the photo. Once outside, he finds a car blocking the entrance again. He asks the driver to move, even though he doesn't work there anymore. When Adama asks why, Driss says it's a matter of principle. A few hours later, the two brothers go to pick up their mother at the train station. Back at the house, Philippe is having his first dinner with his new caretaker. The caretaker is stuffy and boring, and Philippe decides to leave without eating a single bite. Since Yvonne is out on a date with the gardener, no one is there to scold him. As days pass, Driss returns to his old life. He hangs out with his old friends again. He tells the guys in the suspicious car not to bother Adama anymore. He goes to an interview for a job he doesn't have enough experience for. He wins over the boss by calling himself practical and using all the art knowledge he learned from working with Philippe. This gets him a job as a driver.
Philippe still doesn't like his new caretaker and is always in a bad mood. One night, he refuses to let anyone in the house help with his phantom pain. So Yvonne calls Driss and asks him to come over. This is how they end up in the same situation from the beginning, with the cops chasing them and then escorting them to the hospital. After that adventure, Driss drives Philippe to the coast. The sight of the sea helps Philippe calm down. Sometime later, Driss shaves Philippe's overgrown beard. He takes him to a restaurant for lunch, but he doesn't stay, because someone else will be joining Philippe today. Driss wishes him luck and finally gives him back his egg before leaving. Philippe starts to worry about being alone until he sees who his date is, Eleanor. She is happy to see him and doesn't mind his wheelchair at all. The real Philippe Pozzo di Borgo now lives in Morocco. He has remarried and has 2 daughters. The real Driss, whose name is Abdel Yasmin Salou, has his own company and is married with 3 children. The 2 men are still very close friends.